okutumbula abaana n'okubateekateeka ebibiina abaana mwe basomera eby'omulembe omuli buli kimu ekikwata ku ebyo bye basoma ebisuula ebyazimbibwa obulungi ebigazi ate nga biyonjo okumanya ebisingawo tukubire ku nnamba z'essimu ezowammanga wamune
Kombo University, a private chartered university that offers world-class education at all levels, including certificates, diplomas, bachelor's and master's degrees. Our courses include computing and IT, law, journalism, nursing, business administration, education, fashion and design, and many more. Admissions for the August 2020 intake are still open. Will you join us?
Good afternoon, my students. Good afternoon, all the other people who are watching us today. This is yet another day that the Lord has made. At least He has enabled us to be here together once again. I would like to apologize for the other days I've not been around. I know my students have been calling me, texting me, and emailing me. But of course, the circumstances were unavoidable. But the good thing, or the good news, I'm back. Okay, the last time I was here, I remember we were looking at narrative writing. We were trying to learn how to write compositions and how to start, because I realized that the challenge we had was starting to write a composition. Many of you want to be given what to write, or rather what to use to write, but the main challenge was to start. And I thought we would start with maybe what I would consider to be a little simple, a little easier. That's why I brought out the two techniques of using the direct speech and then description. So I thought it would be a little easier for us to begin our compositions with either describing someone, describing a place, describing an event, describing a day, weather, anything that you can describe anyway. It would make more sense and it would trigger the interest of the audience, the person who is really trying to look at your work. So I thought we would do that. I've looked at a few pieces of work that many of you have tried to send in, and you were really trying to do something good. And I ask that you keep it up. Now, for some of us who feared trying, I would continue to ask you to keep on trying, because until you try, you may never know where your potential is or how best you can do. I mean, how far you can go. So you have to start. Then after starting, we can see where you have challenges, and then we can guide you there, here and there. Then there are those who started with direct speech. Now, direct speech is one of the easiest, I think, styles that you can ever employ, because it's very easy to get anybody's words. It could be your parents' words that you write, put them in quotation marks. Yeah, because we know sometimes our parents can shout, sometimes our parents could ask, sometimes they could be stand, and so many things that can go on. So we could easily use direct speech while we are reporting their words. They could be the teachers at school, the ones we normally interact with. You could start with that. Or they could be our siblings, they could be our friends, anybody, but it's easier to start with direct speech than any other style. So I thought you would employ that, then start. But remember, I said, because where I saw some challenges was that many of us use direct speech, but we did not know that they're supposed to be words in quotation. They're supposed to be quoted, and then in a paragraph. Every time you're reporting somebody's words, please ensure that you put them in a paragraph. I kept on commenting on many of your works, so please ensure that at least you work on that. Having said that, we shall keep on working together. That is, if schools don't open soon, but if they open soon, I know your teachers will continue from where we have stopped, or even sometimes add on what we have already learned during the period we have been with you. But in case we have to continue to be together, we shall continuously keep on reminding you and showing you and then teaching you how to go about with writing, especially compositions, the different compositions as we have been seeing in these lessons. So do not get worried that maybe I missed out on the last one, maybe I missed out on this. we shall continue, and if we cannot continue together, then your teachers will continue or will help you with that. So today I want us to look at what we would call something simple. I would say pronouns. But to be specific, we are going to look at personal pronouns. For senior 3s and senior 4s at this level, at least you know what personal pronouns are. And even if you don't, we are going to see what they are. We have pronouns. What are pronouns? I think in simple words, pronouns are words that are used instead of nouns. If I may remind, maybe another person would ask, what are nouns? At this level, I expect you to know what nouns are. Simply, they are naming words. Anything that you can give a name is a noun. Now, what other word would you use to replace a noun or a name of something? That is what we call pronoun. And then you go down and then break them down. And I say, what are those pronouns? What are those words that we may use to in places of names? You remind yourselves of the she instead of Jane. You remind yourselves of, what would I say? Instead of Peter or Umaru, you would say he, you know. Instead of Sarah, you would say she. And if it is an animal, maybe a non-living thing, it would be, if it's, let's say, dog, you would say it. If it's a plant, still it would be it. And if there are many, maybe there would be Sarah and Umar. Let's say Umar, you would say they, you know, and so on. So these are some of the pronouns. But there are times when we go maybe where we have the possessives, where we have the demonstrative, and so on and so on. However, today we're going to look at specifically personal pronouns. What are personal pronouns? If I may ask, you may remind yourselves. You may not send me an email right now to tell me what they are, but by now you should be at least reminding yourself, trying to recall. I know your teacher may have talked about it either in senior 2 or senior 3. So we're going to look at personal pronouns and how they are used. And so many times we are using them in our day-to-day lives, but we have never been conscious on how to use them rightly. So I hope today, by the end of this lesson, we'll be in position to use them correctly, and so that in case a question came where we need to use them, we should be able to really use them very well. So we are saying that personal pronouns are those pronouns that are used for persons and maybe other things. Okay? At least I've already given you examples. Where instead of Jane, you put she. Instead of Shafiq, you put he. Instead of Peter, you put he. And if there are maybe 2 or more, you put they. And if it is an animal or something else, then you put it. So that's what we call, those are the ones we consider as their personal pronouns. Okay? So we are saying that personal pronouns can be divided in 3 forms. 3 forms. And so these forms are the ones we are going to specifically look at and then see when do we use them and how do we use them. To begin with, we are going to have the nominative as one. We are going to have the nominative pronouns. We are going to have the objective, and then we are going to have the possessive. So where we have the nominatives, the objectives, the possessives, you're going to realize that these nominatives are normally used as subjects. Now, at this point, I would expect you to know what a subject is. But even if you don't, at least normally subject, in simple terms, if I was teaching SOV in senior 1, I would say that a subject, for easy understanding, these are the doers of the action, the things that perform the action. Normally, we start with them in sentences. Normally, but in other instances, they can also be in the middle or towards the end. But you should be in position to tell, especially from the meaning of the sentence, that which one is the subject. For example, if I say, she went to the well, then you know that there is no other person who went to the well but the she. Now, the she could represent any name of female, okay? But here now that we are looking at pronouns, we are looking at she. So if I say she went to the well, she is the subject because she's the one performing the action of going to the well. So we're going to find that most of these nominatives, we shall use them as subjects. Then when we look at the objectives, the objective pronouns, they are the ones on which maybe the action is performed, okay? The ones on which they come from object, the object in a sentence. There is the performer of the action, but there is also that something that the action is performed. For example, I called him. When you say I called him, that means that him is the object. Then I is the subject, okay? So here we shall have those as the object, especially if direct. Sometimes they're direct and other times they're indirect. So we shall have direct and indirect objects. Then possessives, like the word possess, you know, something to own. Something to own. If you say, this is your ball, that means it's not mine, but it's yours, okay? So you possess it. In other words, it shows ownership. So these are some of the pronouns that we are going to use to show ownership. Who owns this? You know, whom does this belong to? So we're going to use these possessive pronouns to show the ownership of either the nouns and yes. So this is what we call the personal pronouns, and they can be classified under three: the nominatives, the objectives, and then the possessives. So now we are going to see what falls under nominative, which pronouns fall under objectives, and which ones fall under possessives. So I want you to be very keen and careful. As much as we may have learned what pronouns are, at this point you need to be exactly careful and pay attention. So we're going to have a very simple table here. Just pray. Okay, we're going to have a simple table here. And then our table, I just pray that it will be enough. So here we shall have the personal, pronouns. Okay, we're going to have the personal pronouns here. And then here we are going to have the forms. And then we are going to have their singular, and then their plural, and then their functions. Okay, so here we're going to have their forms. Singular. Here we shall have the plural, and then here we shall have the function. Okay, so we're going to begin with what we call the nominative. I just hope that you can see the words. We have the nominatives. And we're under the forms, we're going to have the nominatives, the objectives, and then the possessives. I have at least simply explained what the nominatives stand for and what we shall expect in the nominatives. So here we're going to find that we shall expect to have I in the singular. We shall expect to have you, okay, in the singular. We shall expect to have she. We shall expect to have he. We shall expect to have it. Okay? So this is what we have in our nominative. And so under plural we shall have we, which is the plural of I. We shall have you. It does not change. The plural does not change. And where we have it, she, and he, we shall have they. I'm going very slowly because I want you to follow very well. Okay, now we're going to look at the functions in the sentence, because here the most important thing is how do we use them in the sentence and what do they imply in the sentence. It is very important that as you make your sentences, the person you are talking to, you're communicating, should be able to understand what actually you are trying to say. So here we are going to say they act as subjects. I have already talked about this, but I can always repeat it. So they act as subjects or predicates. We shall call them nominative predicates. So in other words, predicate, I would say, if maybe somebody would be confused with predicate. Now a predicate is that part of a sentence that begins it, okay? The part of a sentence that starts it, and maybe showing who is performing the action in that sentence. That's why we are calling it a nominative predicate. Now from there, we are going to look at the objective. What are these objective pronouns? So we shall have the objective. The objective pronouns, we shall have them. And here we are going to have, when it comes to the singular, we shall have me, we shall have me, we shall have you, okay? Then we shall have her, we shall have him, and it, okay? I hope we are paying attention here. So here the plural of me shall be us. The plural of you shall be you. The plural of her shall be them. Instead of saying, I will take it to her, you can say, I will take it to them if there are many. Instead of saying, I will take it to him, you say, I will take it to them if there are many. Instead of saying, maybe we shall have it, and if there are many, you say we shall have them. Let's say there are rabbits and there are two. You say we shall have them, okay? Now let us look at their function, the function of objective pronouns in sentences. We have already seen the other ones as subjects and predicates. Now what is the function of the objectives in a sentence? It's what we are going to look at, okay? So they act as direct objects, indirect objects, and of prepositions. Indirect objects of prepositions. So there we are. Like I mentioned earlier on that these ones, I did not put these, they show ownership for easy understanding. So here they're going to act as objects, whether they're direct or indirect. So we have already seen the nominatives and what we shall use in the nominatives under singular and then plural. I know these things, you've been meeting them, you've been using them in your sentences, but did you know that these were nominatives? Did you know that what I was using as a subject was a nominative? Or did you know that what I was using as an object was rather objective pronouns? So we are classifying them so that next time you're writing, you don't make mistakes. And sometimes when the sentences come and you're supposed to fill in something, you'll be able to fill in the right way. So let us continue showing our possessives. Of course, we shall have here our possessives, our singular, our plural, and then our function. So here we're going to have the possessives. We're going to have the possessives. What do we have under possessive? We have my, because this is, you could say this is my book. Shall have my, we shall have mine. Remember, this is singular. This book is mine, showing ownership. It is not any other person's, but it is mine, okay? Okay, so we shall have your, we shall have your, we shall also have yours. This book is yours. We shall also have her and then hers. Okay, this is her book, like I said earlier. You can also have his, and then you can have its. We're going to look at its there sometimes has issues when the learners are right. Actually, even hers and yours. So sometimes because of that S, learners will find they have issues, they have challenges whether to put an apostrophe or not. We're going to look at that later on. Now, when it comes to plural, we want to change these and see what do they become in plural. So here, instead of my, what would it be? It would be our, isn't it? Then instead of mine, it would be ours. Okay. Instead of your, if you're many, it can still be your, may not change, but it can also still be yours. Okay. Then instead of has, his, its, we shall say their, and then we shall say also theirs. So I hope you do understand this. Eh? This is their book. These books are theirs. Okay? These are their books. And then you can say these books are theirs. So there, I hope you can see in plural what has and maybe his and its changes to that. Now we're going to look at the function. What is the function of the possessive pronouns in the sentence? Okay? What is the function? So in other words, they replace. This one, the function is they replace the possessive nouns. Noun or nouns in those sentences. So basically, that is it. So here we are with our table. So we are going to look at now the sentences where we can use them. I hope we have this. Please, if you can see it, copy it very well so that it is going to guide you in your sentences, and especially when you're writing and then even speaking. Because sometimes we do speak wrongly just because we're not sure of what we are going to use. Please be mindful. I have not put an apostrophe where there is S. I do not expect you also to put any apostrophe, okay? So be very careful. That's why I'm very critical and I'm asking you to be careful. So now let us find out the rules and how they are used. So we are going to say here, rule A, we shall say, we use the nominative form. So we use the nominative form. So we're saying we use the nominative form for a personal pronoun in a compound subject. So we're going to see what do we consider a compound subject, or what do we consider as a compound subject. Okay, a compound subject, that's when you have one aspect, maybe one noun or pronoun in it. I mean more than one noun or pronoun in it, okay? So we're going to see our sentence here. We shall say A planted the beans. Now this is what we consider a compound subject, where we have more than one character, okay? We have more than one character. We have Mbabazi and another. Now here we are saying that Mbabazi and I planted the beans. Now I remember when we were looking at the nominative, we had I in our singular. And we are saying that these nominative are normally used when it comes to subjects. So now, when you are talking, you are maybe talking about something where you were also involved. Especially there is another person but yourself as well. In most cases, bring yourself last, whether you're acting as a subject or as an object, okay? You bring yourself last. You first bring the other people. You could say, my mother and I you will say, my parents and I normally have issues, especially when I'm marking compositions, and I find learners, what do? They normally bring themselves first. I and my father decided to go for a picnic and so on. But it would be better for you, actually it is more organized and more correct to say, my father and I decided to go for a picnic. My brother and I did A, B, C, D. My teacher and I, like that. You bring yourself last, even when you're acting as a subject. So this is an example that we have here. Mbabazi and I planted the beans. There is Mbabazi, but yourself as well. However, you mention Mbabazi first and then yourself. So there is why that is another function of nominative forms of pronouns. They can act in compound subjects. We could have another example here. So we have she and Mheise. She and Mheise sold the flowers. She and Mheise sold the flowers, okay? She and Mheise sold the flowers. Now for this case, if you're going to have she as your subject, ensure that you bring she first and then the name of that other person that you want to involve. This is still a compound subject because it has more than one character. So you begin with the she and then bring the name. So you're saying she and Mheise sold the flowers. Then we could have another example of still a compound subject where we shall have he and I, he and I designed the logo. So we have he and then I, okay? So you're saying he and I designed the logo. So there still where we have he and I, that is a compound subject. Let us go to another way where we can use the objective form, okay? So we are saying here, we're going to see how we're going to use, that was the nominative form of the personal pronouns, as in compound subjects. Remember we say the nominative help us to come up with these subjects. But here specifically we looked at the compound subjects where we have more than one character. So let us look at now the objective form. What do they help us? They normally help us when it comes to compound objectives. If you remember what we said about the objectives, we said the objectives help us to come up with the direct, indirect objectives. Okay, sorry, objects rather, not objectives. So these are objective pronouns, but they help us to come up with direct or indirect objects in sentences. If you can remember, we have our SVO, where we have the subject, the verb, and the object. Normally in the normal sentence structure, the easiest simple sentences, we have the SVO, where we have the subject, we have the verb, we have the object. So if you can put that in your mind, you can now remember what I mean by objects in sentences and then subjects in sentences. So now we're going to look at the compound objects. What helps us to make the compound objects? We have said that these are the objective or the objectives, the objective pronouns, personal pronouns. So we're going to see how do they help us. We have examples here. I could use C. Let me come here. I would say so there we are. Malcolm bought Melissa and them some clothes. Now, initially, if you remember the simple understanding of what a subject and an object, what I gave at the beginning was that a subject normally looks at the performer of the action in that sentence. Who is performing, who is doing that action in the sentence? That is the subject. Before you even go to the compound subjects, because the compound subjects shows that there is more than one performer. We could have two, we could have three, we could have so many. Now, the same applies to objects. What is an object in the sentence? The object in the sentence means that that thing or that person on which or of which the action is performed. So here, when we look at Malcolm bought Melissa and them some clothes, that means Malcolm here is the subject. And then when we look at Melissa, for whom clothes have been bought, Melissa and them are the objects, okay? I hope now you understand me well. Now here we realize that we do not have one object, but we have more than one, where we have Melissa and them. Now them could be other two, they could be many more. So that's why we have them. Now this means that because we have Melissa and them, this is a compound object. There are many other people for which clothes were bought, okay? Malcolm bought many other people apart from Melissa, but many others clothes. So Melissa and those others whom we have called them are the objects and their compound object. I hope you're getting me right there. We could have another example to expound on our objective pronouns. We could say, for Joseph, and me, there's a comma. So there we are. For Joseph and me, there was roasted milk. Sorry, maize, not milk, sorry. There was roasted maize. So here we have Joseph and me. Now, because we have started with Joseph and me, does not necessarily mean that they cannot be objects. Now, some of us may be a little locked in what objects and subjects are. Like I said, and I will keep on saying it again. First, understand the meaning of a subject and object. Now, if you read that sentence, even when Joseph and me begin the sentence, but it does not necessarily mean that they're the ones performing the action. Okay? If we wanted, we could change the sentence and say, there was roasted maize for Joseph and me. So which makes Joseph and me the objects. Okay? Because we have started with a preposition for, it means that this sentence is inverted. We could have started with there was roasted maize for Joseph and me. But because we have inverted it, we have started with for. And so it makes Joseph and me objects. Okay? So these are objects, and so it's a compound object, Joseph and me, because there is more than one character. Okay, let us look at the objective, another objective form. But before maybe we look at the possessive and maybe the other examples, we have to be very conscious when we are writing this. Actually, this one will show us that before you come up with a sentence and then decide this is the object or as you read it, first read it to yourself and then find out the meaning. Because it is the meaning in that sentence that will help you notify you that these characters act as subjects, and then these characters will act as the objects, okay? So you have to be very, very conscious. Otherwise, you may be bound to make so many mistakes. And sometimes we also say that it is also polite. It is also polite, okay? It is also polite to place the pronoun I and me in the last in the series. For example, when I said here, I mentioned Mbabazi and I. It would be absurd for you to start Mbabazi, I and Mbabazi. I and Mbabazi planted the beans. It is impolite. It is, when I say impolite, I mean you're being rude. And being rude in English language, that means you can't be considered right. You're not correct at all. So for you to avoid the impoliteness and be polite and then be correct, ensure that at least when you are using these pronouns, I and me, they come last in the series, either in the subjects or the objects. Because here you've seen, the subject here you saw, Mbabazi and I. Even when it was a subject, we brought I last. And when we came here to the object, still the compound object, we say Joseph and me, okay? You cannot say Joseph and me, and then me cannot be a subject. It is an object. If you want me to be a subject, then change it into I. I hope you do understand what I'm trying to say. If you ever bring me, then that means that you're using that pronoun as an object. So if we find it out in the meaning of a sentence that it is a subject, then it would be wrong for you to do that. Okay, so let us look at the nominative. Okay, let us look at the nominative. The nominative form. Used after a linking verb. After linking a linking verb. Now linking verbs are these helping verbs that we know normally, the ones that help in sentences. For example, was, we have maybe has, we have were, and so many. So we're going to see if we're going to use them with these pronouns. How exactly do we do that? We could have example. I could use Roman here. So here you're going to say, the best composer was he. Now here was is the linking verb, okay? So after was, there is no way you're going to say the best composer was he. The best composer was. So we're going to use he there. If it was a boy, okay? The best composer was he. Then let us look at another example. We shall see. Sometimes, most cases, you would want to say the best composer was him. Now, if you say him, you're wrong. You're not right. Even when to you it sounds more maybe correct, but grammatically you're not being right. We shall say the most careful researcher. The most careful researcher are we. Now for you, you would think that you would say them, but we is the most appropriate that you would use. And maybe you say, maybe the cleanest person here is I. Of course, you can't say is me. You would say it is I, and that it would make it more appropriate. Okay, I hope we are done with this side. Okay, I think this is very important. I talked about it a little earlier. I'm saying that, let me make it as an NB. Never spell the possessive pronouns with an apostrophe. Okay? Never spell them with an apostrophe. Normally, we shall have this, and then, so many times we get confused because there is this apostrophe, there is it's with this apostrophe, and there is this it's. Now, this one, it can represent anything like it is. It can represent it has. But for us, it here remains it, and it means ownership Okay? So when you're writing, even has, I have seen so many times where learners will write has. And then they will put this. This is wrong. Please don't put it there. Where you write theirs, and then you add this. This is wrong. Don't put it there. If you're going to write, what else? Theirs, has, please let it be like that. It is possessive. We don't expect you to add an apostrophe. This is wrong. Okay? This is wrong. So here where we have its, it can mean it is, it has. And for this case, this is not what we are looking out for. We are looking for its without any apostrophe. So I want you to be very keen and ensure that you do not do what? You do not misspell it. You would say, I would expect you to say, this bag is hers without any apostrophe, okay? The animals are theirs. Please don't put the apostrophe anywhere because this is possessive, it is ownership. This is your, this is yours. I normally even see it when it comes to letter writing, when people are signing off. And as they are signing off, the yours faithful, and somebody puts an apostrophe here. It is, please, it is yours. This is yours, okay? This is yours. So I expect you to do that and avoid the what? The contraction, and do not confuse the two. It's with an apostrophe means something else. And it's without an apostrophe also means something else. And it's what we are talking about. It is what it means when it comes to ownership. Okay. So now, I expect you to look at this. Okay? I expect you to look at this and ensure that you do understand, especially when it comes to the 3 forms of pronouns. When it comes to the 3 forms of pronouns, make sure you use them correctly. Make sure you use them rightly. We have said, and I want you not to forget that it will make more sense to you, it will make more meaning if you understand the meaning of a subject and an object. A subject, we have said, it is the performer of the action in the sentence. Whoever is performing the action might be a human being, might not be a human being, might be a he, a female, or a male, might be a group of people, might be 2 people. So I've said there might be, if the characters are more than 1, that's what we shall call, that's when we shall call them compound subjects. We shall call them compound subjects, and that's why we have had Mbabazi and I. Sometimes there could be more than that, okay? And we have had these examples. And we have looked at the objects as well. We have said that the objects are those things or those people on which the actions are performed. For example, when we looked at Malcolm buying for Melissa and them clothes, Malcolm is the subject, and when it came to Melissa and them, they are the objects. They are the ones who Malcolm has bought for them clothes. They are the ones who have got the clothes from Malcolm, or for which the clothes have been bought. So at the end of that day, you should be able to know what a subject is, what an object is. Even when we begin with the object, you should be in position as a candidate or a semi-candidate to identify this. Like for example, in D, where we have said for Joseph and me, there was roasted maize. That does not necessarily mean that because we have started with Joseph and me, that Joseph and me have become a subject. No way. If you look at the sentence and look at the meaning of the sentence, you realize that Joseph and me are the objects. They are the ones on which the action has been performed. They're the ones who are going to get the maize. They're the ones who are, but there was roasted maize already. That is the subject. So it is for Joseph and me. They are the objects at the end of the day. So now we're going to have these sentences where I'm going to expect you to be in position to tell us whether they take on the nominative subjects or the objective objects. or the possessive. Okay. So we're saying write the correct pronoun form from the choices. I shall have one. So there we are. It was Jeremy and Dash. Of course, the words there, the pronouns are in brackets. You can choose one of them to make sure that you make the sentence correct. So we have here, she and Dash will take care of the baby. So you should also be in position to choose which one you think is correct. If you have attended this lesson carefully, I know you will be in position to choose the most correct alternatives. But if you've been dozing, it might be a little hard for you to choose. Okay? But you can still make reference to the notes that you've written. Okay. It's faster, faster. So the last one is, I hope you're writing very fast. Time is not on our side. So there we are. Choose the most correct and then be able to answer or to come up with the correct sentences. Okay? I hope it is very clear. I hope you can see what has been written. There are 10 sentences there. It was Jeremy and I. In brackets, we have I, me, who welcomed the visitors. Then 2, the dog loves to chase. In brackets, we have its with an apostrophe and then its tail. 3, she, in brackets, she and, in brackets, I, me, will take care of the baby. Then 4, the person who called was, in brackets, she, her. 5, I always enjoy, in brackets, you, your, singing. 6, this report was sent to both you and, in brackets, I, me. 7, theirs, comma, theirs is a saloon car with a blue top. And then we have we, us, and they, them, decided on the his fate. This old television loses its picture from time to time. The rain season gave Natambi and they, them, a cold. So you can choose from those alternatives. Maybe those who will have done the work, please, you can send on my email. It is mnanyonjo 1987 @gmail.com. So you send on my email for marking. When you're done with the work, just send it on my email for marking. And then we can see whether you've been attentive or you have not. But either way, we shall find a way of harmonizing everything.
n'obwetegefu bwonna olw'omusingi okutambuzibwa ebyenjigiriza n'ensoma y'abayizi ey'omulembe. Mu masomero gaffe gano gonna tusomesa arts ne sciences okuviira ddala ku siniya esooka okutuuka ku siniya ey'omukaaga, nga tusomesa abaana okuviira ddala ku mutendero gwa kindergarten okutuuka ku kibiina eky'omusanvu. Tulina abasomesa abakugu mu kubangula abaana n'okubateekateeka. Ebibiina abaana mwe basomera eby'omulembe omuli buli kimu ekikwata ku ebyo bye basoma, ebisuula ebyazimbibwa obulungi, ebigazi ate nga biyonjo. Okumanya ebisingawo tukubire ku nnamba z'essimu ezowammanga. Wamune.
Combo University, a private chartered university that offers world-class education at all levels, including certificates, diplomas, bachelor's and master's degrees. Our courses include computing and IT, law, journalism, nursing, business administration, education, fashion and design, and many more. Admissions for the August 2020 intake are still open. Will you join us?
Baby Junior Jelly, owulira mukwano gwa mama n'okufaayo kwa mama. Baby Junior Jelly, owulira engalo za mama ansingira bulijjo anyiriza buli kadde. Baby Junior Jelly, abatogo beetaaga.
Nze nga jjajja bazzukulu bange okusanyuka n'okufuna emirembe. Ekyama kyange mbasiiga ebizigo bya Baby Junior Jelly. Biwummuza bigonza olususu lw'aba baby. Birimu akawowo akalungi. Bigoba okubutuka okuleetebwa diapers birungi ne ku nsusu ez'entondo.
Baby nduya.
Looking for a university to join? Introducing Combo University, a private chartered university that offers world-class education at all levels, including certificates, diplomas, bachelor's and master's degrees. Our courses include computing and IT, law, journalism, nursing, business administration, education, fashion and design, and many more. We also offer co-curricular activities such as sports, music, dance, and drama, and our students are among the very best athletes in the country. Admissions for the August 2020 intake are still open. Will you join us?
Oh yeah, official is my friend. I don't need to worry for the rest of my day. Kuna Matata, voice and data bundles. VOTD. Now I can social distance. Call you all day. Kuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata, the newest bundle from Official. Lots of data, unlimited calls, and free OTT. Dial *133